Alfred.
Thank you. Good morning. It's great to be back in District 52, even if it's only online. Great to be with you this morning. This is such an important session. I'm so happy that all of you are here, and I understand it's being recorded, so some of you will be watching it that way. Unfortunately, those of you doing it that way, you won't be able to participate and interact. But I do want this to be an interactive session, so if you have questions, I'm going to have my chat window open, but Cersei and Jim, the whole top three, Lawrence, let me know, interrupt me, because I do want this to be interactive. This is here for you. My whole purpose is to make sure that District 52 is successful this year. And I want to make sure that we spend a lot of time in making sure we're focusing on the right things. And the presentation I'm going to be sharing is, you have to enable my participant sharing screen, just so I can share my.
You got it.
Thank you. There we go. It is to really make sure that we're focused on the right things. And this is adapted from the training I do for the Area and Division Directors at the beginning of the term. So even though you didn't get to see it then, you're going to get it now. So can everybody see my PowerPoint?
Yes. Okay,
beautiful. And I tried to hit start. Here we go. Let's see if we can do this. And again, I want this to be very, very interactive. So, and now I lost my chat. So I'm going to count on you guys to let me know if a question comes up. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to describe the relationship between establishing new clubs and the different missions. We're going to talk about your responsibilities as district leaders. We're going to talk about the various steps to building new clubs. And we're actually going to go through a little bit of the process of getting things started. But let's start with a very basic question. It's a beautiful Saturday morning. You've worked all week. Now you finally are at the weekend. And what are you doing? You're here in an online meeting with a past international president. Wow. Why are you even here? You know, there's so many other things you could be doing, right? Well, I think our mission is a very good, powerful reason why. I think whys are always important. Our Toastmasters International is we empower individuals to become more effective communicators and leaders. It's very simple, but it's also very powerful. And I find that very exciting, and I hope you do as well. If we look at the mission of the district, it says very clearly, we build new clubs and support all clubs in achieving excellence. And I think the board got it right when they rewrote this a few years ago, because they put first things first. We build new clubs. And that is the first and foremost focus of the mission of the district. And I'm going to explain why this is what we as a district team need to be focusing on. Okay. And when we say achieving excellence in Toastmasters, there's one word that defines excellence. What is that one word?
Dues.
Dues? No.
Distinguished.
Distinguished. Thank you. Thank you so much. Distinguished. Distinguished is how we measure excellence in Toastmasters. That's how we measure success. And so let's say your club is not distinguished. It wasn't this last year. That doesn't mean we need to disband the club and send everybody to other clubs. No, but it means in one way or another, we didn't quite hit the standard of what we should be achieving for excellence within that club. So distinguished is always our goal. Now, let me ask you a question. Where's my wallet here? Speech contests. All right, we have 20, 40, 60, 80, $100 if you can find speech contests in the mission of the district.
Nope.
Would you all agree it's not there? Yes?
Agreed.
Anybody disagree with that? Would it be fair to share with you my District 52 story about this situation?
Yes.
When I was an area governor, you know, that was the term back in the old days, area governor in 52. When we had our meetings like this, our DEC meetings, all the district talked about was speech contests. So I thought, okay, this is what we're focusing on. And so when I had my area council meetings, we met to plan our fall speech contest. Back then they had two, one in the fall, one in the spring. And we had an amazing speech contest. I had a contest amongst the clubs to raise money for the opportunity drawing. We raised $400. We had 60 people in attendance, and it was just an amazing event. By every measure, it was a successful event. And then our area council didn't meet till it was time to plan the spring contest, because again, this is what the district was talking about. This is what the district was focusing on. And at the end of and again, we had another fantastic event. We used the profits of the first one to subsidize. We actually gave money back to the district. They were having financial troubles at that time. We gave our profits back to the district. It was, again, a successful event. And at the end of the Toastmasters year, District 52 was not distinguished. And that's when the light bulb came on for me. I went, wait a minute. We spent all this energy and time and focus on speech contest, and it's not even a critical success factor. And so I learned a key lesson from that. And that's why, as district director, governor, again, back in those days was the title, we did focus on something different than speech contests. We focused on building new clubs, and that's the reason we were successful. So I'm going to ask you a trick question now. Now, those of you that have gone through this exercise with me, I'm going to ask you to please not spoil it for others. But if you haven't done this, please participate. And I want you to unmute and respond. This is, again, a trick question. Without going to the TI website and peeking at the numbers, would you please tell me, area directors, how many new members have joined your area? Division directors, how many new members have joined your division? And if you're one of the top district leaders, how many have joined the district so far this Toastmasters year? Rough number, I don't need an exact number. And again,
0.
Rose says 0. Any other answers?
Are we asking net or in general?
New members that have joined your area or division.
It's a trick question.
Carla, what do you think?
I'm not sure. I'm sorry. I just figured out how to get in here.
That's okay. Okay, maybe you didn't hear it. All right. Steve, can you unmute, Steven? What do you think?
I'll say 23, just because I like
23?
the number.
Okay, all right. Hey, Janet, great to see you. All right, well, again, I told you it was a trick question. The answer is 0, okay? Because those new members did not join your area, they did not join your division, they did not join the district. What did they join?
The
The club.
They joined the club.
They joined a club. Now, you may think this is really ridiculous that I'm going through this, but this is so important to get your mindset straight, because as a district leader, we have to focus on the right things, okay? So if we think about the steps of a guest becoming a member, that guest has to first find out there's going to be a Toastmasters meeting. And in this day and age, we're meeting online, so they also have to find out what the link is, and they have to get logged in, and they have to attend a meeting. And when they attend that meeting, they have to see a quality meeting, something that say, hey, this is kind of cool. This is something I'd like to be a part of. And then somebody in the club has to ask that key question, would you like to join? And once you ask that question and they say yes, then you have to get them the application, dues are collected, and then you send it, you send it back to the world headquarters. Wouldn't you all agree that's pretty much the process in becoming a guest to a member? So let me ask you this. This is not a trick question. Unless the district leader is a member of that club, what percentage influence did the district have in that entire process?
Not much.
Not much. Yeah, some people will say 0. I don't like to go that far, because the district might have done a workshop on moments of truth. and encouraging quality meetings. They obviously would have trained the club officers, which is real. Actually, this is beyond the district's responsibility, but it's really scary that Toastmasters International and the Vice President of Membership Training doesn't even cover how to fill out the membership application. That boggles my mind. Anyway, but the district is just an influencer in that. They don't control it. Do you agree?
Yes.
And so if you look about this, it's the club, not the district, that has that responsibility. And the same thing applies to membership retention. Members are leaving clubs. They're not leaving the district because of anything the district has done. And even those that are leaving the clubs, typically the reason they're leaving is because they've had a change in their situation where their priorities have changed. They're no longer able to do it. I joined District 52 and I was a member of a corporate club in downtown Los Angeles. Our corporation shut down that headquarters and moved me to Orange County. The district lost 2 clubs instantly when that happened. There's nothing the district could have done about that. So again, that's just a fact of life. So the biggest mistake district leaders make is when they take the monkey on their back that they somehow are responsible for membership retention and membership building in the clubs. Whose responsibility is it?
The clubs.
It's the club's responsibility. It's
Club
the club's
officers.
responsibility. Yeah. Now, as area directors, when you visit the club, you're absolutely an advisor and you can support them in that. And that's what wonderful. But the club has to own it. The club has to do it, right? So again, if we look at the mission of the district, there's an active part and there's a passive part. The active part is we build new clubs. And again, they put first things first. And then the second half is supporting all clubs in achieving excellence. Supporting is more passive than building, right? And so we support our clubs in achieving excellence. As a district overall, the effort should be 80-20. 80% building new clubs, 20% achieving the success with the existing clubs, supporting those clubs in achieving success. All right, is that clear? Let me share with you my barbed wire story. A few years ago, I was in the Central Coast and I wanted to ride an ATV on the sand dunes at Pismo Beach. And I was signing my life away with all the legal disclaimers. And as I'm filling out the paperwork, the guy running the shop there said, "Do you mind if I give you some advice?" And I said, "Well, yeah, sure, of course." He said, "Don't ride too close to the barbed wire." And I kind of scoffed and was, "Well, yeah, of course." He goes, no. Every year we have people that think they're far enough away from the barbed wire, but at the speed they're going, they hit a rut and they get thrown into the barbed wire. This is relevant to Toastmasters because in Toastmasters, we never want to aim just for distinguished. That's the barbed wire. If we're aiming for distinguished and any little thing goes wrong, we're going to fall short and not make our goal. All right. When I became international president, one of the first things I had to do was review an application from an area director, area governor back at the time, that had submitted an advanced leadership award. And back then, one of the requirements was that that person would have had to have attended a district-sponsored club officer training. And in the application, this is back before you could do it online. This is ancient times. Back then, she submitted the paperwork and there was a line there. It says, date you attended the club officer training sponsored by the district. That line was left blank. So what did World Headquarters think?
That she didn't attend?
Yeah, she didn't do it. She didn't fulfill that requirement. And unfortunately, and this is still the case today, 50% of all educational completions come in the month of June for the entire Toastmasters year. There's a flood that comes in. And back then, again, it was all paperwork. So they're reviewing this in July after the year had been completed. So World Headquarters got back to the individual and said, hey, you didn't fill this out. It says you did not attend district officer sponsored club officer training. So that's why we're kicking back your application. And she responded back, no, I did it. And she provided the documentation. The district even supported it and showed that she really had completed it. And it was important that she got that award because that was going to give her club one additional point in the Distinguished Club program, which would make her club a distinguished club. But again, she didn't fill out the paperwork right. So I was asked as international president, should we allow that to be given in the previous year, or was it now going to count in this Toastmasters year? What do you think I said?
This one?
Exactly. If it had been a mistake by World Headquarters, absolutely, I would have said, no, it's our fault. We need to own it. And so she's going to get credit for the previous year, and her club would have been a distinguished club. But because it was her mistake, and granted, we didn't catch it till the next year, we're still going to give her credit, but now it's going to count in this Toastmasters year. She was riding too close to the barbed wire. You never want to have just one little thing go wrong that causes your plans to go awry. And as we know, Murphy is very active in Toastmasters, right? So all of you, I hope, are aiming for President's Distinguished Area. There's no reason not to, right? And the requirements are 50% of your clubs are distinguished or better. If they're select or presidents, that's awesome. And you have a +1, so it's 50% +1. So if you have an area of 5 clubs, it would mean 3 clubs need to be distinguished. And then you have to have a net club growth of 1 club, all right? What does net mean?
You don't lose any clubs.
Pardon?
You don't lose any clubs and you add an additional one.
Well, not necessarily.
If you lose a club, you have to make up for it. And then when there's a net, and then you need +1.
Right. So if you lose one, now you have to build 2, right? So at the end of the year, you have to have 1 more paid club than you started the year with. So if you lose none, you only have to add 1. If you lose a club, you have to add 2. God forbid you lose 2, you'd have to add 3. All right. So that's what our goal is. We should be aiming for President's Distinguished Area, right? Are all of you doing that? There's no reason not to, right? Go for it. All right. And then as a district, this is actually old, we need to update it. Our goal is to be Smedley Distinguished District, right? And the way we achieve that is building 1 new club per area. And then we again support our existing clubs to be distinguished. And Cersei, how many areas in the district again?
I have 6 areas.
No, you have more than 6 areas.
Oh, excuse me.
24.
I have 24 areas, 6 divisions. Sorry.
That's okay. 24 areas. Okay. So let me ask you a real basic question. And your top 3 have already agreed with this. Don't you think it's possible, conceivable, that we could build 1 new club in each area?
Absolutely.
It's absolutely possible. It is achievable. You know, I have a great saying. I said, it's simple, not easy. How did the Lakers win the NBA championship? It was simple. They just had to win more games than the Miami Heat. It was simple, but it wasn't easy. It wasn't a sweep. They had to work for it. Okay. So it's simple, but it's not easy. And again, if we focus on the mission of the district, we build new clubs, then that really is the piece that we control, because just like membership in your clubs, excuse me, it's natural that clubs are losing members all the time. They're leaving for different reasons. And that people keep wanting to solve that problem. And I don't think there's an easy fix for that. People's priorities change, and they start getting comfortable with public speaking, and then they move on to other things. So clubs need to continually be adding new members. If you don't, your club will die. Well, the same thing applies to districts. Districts need to be continually building new clubs, or the district can die. And you may not be aware of this, but the board, when they see districts that shrink and shrink and shrink, they eventually combine them with other districts, and that district no longer exists. They get absorbed by other neighboring districts. And so for the strength of the organization, we always want to be growing. Now, they also split in a positive way when they grow beyond they grow so big they can no longer be sustainable as a single district. And Founders District, since the time I've been around, has done that twice. They first split off District 12, and now they most recently split off District 100. So that's what you want to see. You want to see constant growth in there. But there's actually a bigger reason. Why build new clubs? Let's think about our own story, right? I am so personally grateful to Beverly Andrews because, God bless her, she was a past district governor of District 52, and she chartered the 2 clubs at the company that I eventually went to work at. I was not a charter member. Those clubs were already there. Now, I joined in my 20s, and if you look at my gray hair, that tells you how long I've been a member. And as a young guy in my 20s, just starting my professional career, I was not looking for extracurricular activities. But this Toastmasters Club met at lunchtime at my company location. It was extremely convenient, and so when a colleague invited me to attend, I went. And I was immediately impressed by the Toastmasters program. I was also very impressed by the leadership training I saw that the leaders in the club were doing, and also even the participants, the Toastmaster leading a meeting. That is a leadership role. And so I ended up joining, and because of Beverly, that club was there. If that club had not been there, I'm not sure if I ever would have joined Toastmasters. And thank God for Toastmasters, because professionally I got 5 promotions after becoming a Toastmaster. And then at least 2 of them, I know it was the leadership skills I had gained as a Toastmaster leader that got me those positions. So that's my story. If you think about your own story and think about what an impact Toastmasters has had on you, I hope you would agree that building new clubs is so important to give others that same opportunity that we had. Wouldn't you agree? So let's quickly.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I love it. We want interaction. I don't want this to be a monologue. These are the steps to charter a club, and we're going to go through all of those. It starts with the lead, but we also need a sponsor and mentor. We're going to make an initial contact with that internal contact with the group. We'll have a pre-meeting with that person. We'll do publicity, have them do publicity. We'll do a launch meeting, launch the club, and then send in the paperwork. Those are pretty much the steps. We're going to go into each of those in step. Now, area director's responsibilities. And I know that I talked to Cersei, and she has made sure that all of you already knew of this, but I'm reinforcing it. And it's not Jim's job. Jim is there to support you. But your job is to ensure that a new club is chartered in your area this Toastmasters year. We need you to own that goal. You're going to ensure that a club is chartered in your area. But we're not asking you to personally charter that club, all right? But we want you to own the goal. But we are asking you for a few things. First of all, we're asking you for a viable lead. And Cersei, I don't know if you want me to ask for dates by which they're going to give leads, or have you already done that with everybody? Need you on mute.
We'll do that during this meeting.
Okay, good. So just so you have a heads up, at the end of this meeting, Cersei's going to do a roll call with all the area directors, and we're going to ask you to provide a date by which that you're committing to provide a lead to the district. And again, during this session, we're going to go over ways you can come up with that lead. So it starts with a viable lead. And a viable lead is one that ultimately ends up in a club being chartered. If you give one and it doesn't turn out, we're going to come back and say, okay, unfortunately that didn't work out. Let's try another one. And then when you're visiting the clubs, your clubs in your area, see if you can't identify a sponsor and mentor. Now, a sponsor doesn't have to be an experienced Toastmaster. It just needs to be somebody that's excited about Toastmasters. And I'll give you a great example. We had a gentleman join our club. Now it's about a year and a half ago. And at one meeting, he happened to mention, I just get so excited on Toastmaster meeting days. I just love coming to these meetings. And I'm like, oh, this guy is great. I love that enthusiasm. That's the kind of person we would want to have as a sponsor for a new club. He was too new to be a mentor because he wouldn't know all the rules and the standards of Toastmasters just yet. But he would be definitely viable as a sponsor. So when you visit your club's area directors, and now of course you're doing that online, see if you can identify possible candidates for these roles. And it's not necessarily a club officer. Quite often there's those very valuable members that are, mentor, somebody that's been with the club for years and years. They're just that steady, a foundational Toastmaster that you can always rely on and count on. That person would be a great mentor. So this is what we're asking for you. We're asking you to own the goal. We're not asking you to personally charter the club, but we are asking for a lead, the sponsor, and the mentor. Now, if you want to be involved in the process, certainly you're welcome to. If you'd like to be part of the launch team or anything more, absolutely, you're more than welcome. You're not excluded, but we're not requiring that of you. Does that make sense? And we're not asking too much, because when we talk about coming up with a viable lead, I honestly believe, I've not had anybody give me a different number. I honestly believe with 2 hours of focused brainstorming, you will come up with a lead. Now, I don't mean 2 hours all at once. I mean like 5 minutes with your area council, 2 minutes with a fellow club member, a few minutes here, a few minutes there. By the time you have spent 2 hours, I bet you're going to come up with that lead. And I know for me, when I was a young Toastmaster and I first got assigned to give a speech at the next meeting, my first thought was, oh my gosh, I don't have any idea what I'm going to speak about. And so I would be like, But 2 or 3 days later, typically in the shower, the idea would come to me. And so that's probably what's going to happen here. Once you know that you have to come up with a lead, your subconscious will work on it as well. Or you'll be driving around. Well, we're going to get into that. And also you see a new building. You go, oh my gosh, look at that. New skyscraper in downtown LA. I bet we could charter a club there. So leads can come from multiple sources. They can come from world headquarters. And sadly, every year, districts are given leads that come into world headquarters where somebody, in some cases, they've even already paid the charter fee and districts never follow up. That's so disgusting to me, so discouraging. Free leads that are just handed to you and the districts don't bother to follow up. But they can come from world headquarters. They can come from current members. Talk to your neighbors, talk to your coworkers. They might know of a location that could use Toastmasters. You can also assess existing clubs to identify opportunities for new clubs. In the olden days, they had these things on paper and you'd lay that paper out and they had like cities on them and roads, and they were called maps. And you can actually get them for free right now if you're a member of the Auto Club. But I love using maps, and I draw a little circle on the map for all the existing clubs. And when you look at the map, you might instantly see a whole community or a whole area that doesn't have any existing clubs. Now, unless it's a national park or something, there's an opportunity there. You can also assess existing clubs to look at opportunities for new clubs. Like I said, looking at the map, but also let's say there's a breakfast club at a restaurant. All right. You could actually, okay. I just looked at Janet here. Look, they're going to the AAA. Awesome. Get those maps. You could, if there's a breakfast club at a restaurant, and of course, this is back when we're meeting in person, post-COVID, whenever that is, you could actually have an evening club in that same restaurant. And I will tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, the people that are available in the morning are not available in the evening and vice versa, okay? And so those two clubs are not going to compete with each other. In fact, I have seen situations where there's been a major road and there's 4 lanes of traffic going one way and 4 lanes of traffic going the other way. And at the exact same intersection on opposite sides, one north, one south, there is a McDonald's at the corner. So 2 McDonald's at the same intersection, and both of them are thriving. Why do you think they're thriving?
You're
It's
going in two directions.
Right. People are too lazy to do a U-turn. And I'm one of them. I'll admit it. When I'm looking for something to eat, a bite to eat, and I'm driving down the road, I'm looking off to my right. I'm not looking to make a left turn. It would have to be something pretty outstanding to grab my attention to make me do a U-turn. So absolutely, absolutely. And so, and actually in Huntington Beach, where my office is, I noticed the same thing is existing with the CVS pharmacy. Beach Boulevard is a major road, as you know, and it's at the same intersection. They're kitty corners, so they're not directly opposite each other, but there are 2 CVSs at the same intersection down in Huntington Beach. So again, you can look at existing clubs for opportunities because you can do that time diversity, look at maps. And yet, speaking of McDonald's, when we target communities over 10,000, McDonald's has already done your research because they only build 1 store for every 10,000 people in population. So if you look at all the McDonald's in your area, that's how many Toastmaster clubs your area could support. And a few years ago, I had a district governor and founders district come to me. He goes, Alfred, we're founders district. They're where Toastmasters started. We have so many clubs here, we're saturated. And when I told him the McDonald's analogy, all of a sudden his ideas got expanded. He said, oh my gosh, we have so much opportunity. You can also look at corporations with over 150 people. That's just a rough number, 150. But we're really focusing on more white collar employees. They're more our target market. Not that blue collars wouldn't be interested in Toastmasters, but to a lesser extent. Let's face it, Toastmasters is building communication and leadership skills, which is going to be more helpful to people in the white collar industries. Other opportunities could be community centers, libraries. Last time I visited Ontario, Canada, I was invited to visit a Toastmasters club in Toronto, and they met at a public library in a meeting room. Churches, when the Crystal Cathedral was going down in Garden Grove, when they were in their heyday, they actually had 4 Toastmaster clubs right within the church. So there's schools that are an opportunity. Personally, I'm not a fan of the student ones, but really if you have ones for the instructors, that would be great, or the administrators, great opportunities. And if you want to do one for the students, fine, but just recognize the turnover issue is going to be an issue there as the students are graduating. I already mentioned corporations. Years ago, District 52, Peter Geisler had created this resource of all the companies within the district. It was a huge, huge list. And I don't know if that list still exists, if it's been updated, but you can even go to Chambers of Commerce and get a list of that. So there's lots of opportunities around here. So let's quickly take a 5-minute brainstorm session here. I'd like each of you to do a quick brainstorm on where you think you might be able to build a club. All right, go.
Alfred, it's Lance.
Yes.
There are over 100 neighborhood councils in the Los Angeles area, and neighborhood councils are links between the populace and the government, both ways. Therefore, they need leaders and speakers.
Wonderful.
There are places where neighborhood councils have exhibit booths, for example, disaster preparedness fairs. So for years, I've been trying to work that angle. There's also a lot of politics involved at those clubs, but if you can get past the politics, that's a source, and everybody should look at their local neighborhood council.
Good. Excellent. Excellent. All right. So let's do this quick brainstorm and we'll come back in just a minute.
Our brains are asleep.
Well, I'm in downtown LA, so definitely there's lots of corporate centers that have over 150 employees. So I think that would be a great place to start. And I love that idea of finding a list of the companies that are within my divisions for my area. So that's a good idea. I like it.
Yeah, you can do a Google search and just Google companies with more than 200 employees and get a geographic result, mainly because Google pays attention to where your computer is sitting.
Cersei, I did compile last year for our district. I can resend it again.
Excellent.
About 300 companies within District 52 with at least 100 employees or more. I did compile that last year. COVID struck. We weren't sure how to approach it. I can resend that as well.
Good.
Judy,
I'd like to add something. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Cersei.
no, that's all right. Go ahead.
Okay. I think for me and other, I think women's groups and other groups are wonderful places to start new clubs. And in fact, Don Brackett has a women's club coming up. So it doesn't have to be just women, but whatever types of groups that have lots of people, I think those are good places to, check out.
Yeah, that's called a specialty club, and they're very popular in successful districts because a specialty club focuses on one specialty, their one interest level. Lance mentioned politics. Well, a political club is not a bad club. It's a viable club because it's an interest.
Great.
Judy, you mentioned Echo Park Writers Toastmasters Club. Is that a real club, or is that a club?
No, there are a lot of writers and people in the movie industry, and a lot of them live in Echo Park. So.
Oh, great. Awesome.
What about a group, because all the layoffs are happening the way they are with companies, especially since, all the movie companies are having to rework how they deliver information via internet. What about like a club that's not networking, but something like that? Like, like somebody just mentioned the movie industry people, and I can't see, I'm sorry, because I'm on my phone, but so I couldn't tell who it was. I apologize. But something like, a filmmakers club or a directors club or something to bring professionals together in a different way. That might be an idea.
Absolutely. No, these are all great ideas. Great ideas. Jim, I hope you're taking notes.
I am. I got him.
Cersei is too. Beautiful, beautiful. All right, good. Well, I think, anybody else want to pop up with any ideas that they came with during the brainstorm? Lance, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, we have many clubs in our district that have the name of the city, like Studio City, North Hollywood, Burbank, Glendale, Woodland Hills. If there is a community that does not have a club with its name, that's a possibility if you can find a way to start one. Encino, for example, we don't have an Encino club. Look for a community that does not have a club, because when people go online and look for a club, one of the first things they look for is their city. When we change the name of Chamber Communicators to Studio City Speakers, we get guests every week automatically. Chamber Communicators meant nothing. Studio City Speakers says, oh, this is my neighborhood.
Right. We have great big holes in District 52. I did a map like Alfred was talking about, and it's easy to do. You get on Find a Club and you look for the clubs in your area in the zip code, and you can see where the holes are. And the holes are in nice large communities like Porter Ranch and Reseda and Stillmont. Lots of communities do not have a.
Can you share that list with us?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'll send it to you, Lance. She sent it to me. I just thought Porter Ranch would be a good place. There's probably room for 2 up there, maybe 3.
And that's the point I was going to make, just because, it's great. I love what Lance said, but don't just be restricted, because like, I'm going to show my District 52 knowledge from last century, Glendale number 8, right?
Yeah.
Am I right? Yay. Well, Glendale can probably support more than one club. That city is big enough. We don't have to say, well, Glendale 8, I guess that community's covered. No, we can have more clubs, and you probably do.
In that regard, I was a guest speaker a few days ago at the Kiwanis Club in La Cañada that meets at noon, representing the District 52 Speakers Bureau. And they then referred me to the La Cañada Kiwanis Club that meets at 9 a.m. And there was more than 20 people in each club. So what Alfred says is right. There could be several clubs at different times, different days, different nights. Right.
Alfred, now that we're in a virtual environment, what do you think about just opening a virtual club that's not restricted by region or area?
Okay, I'm the type of person, if you ask me a question, I'm going to give you an honest answer. All
Yes,
right?
please. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I am not a fan of these online clubs. All right. And I was very concerned when Toastmasters, the board, actually allowed them to be existing. And during this COVID crisis, I've actually had 100% of my fears realized. Now, first of all, let me say I 100% support that we needed to go online during this period. We had to meet online. We had to do it for, number one, to keep our members engaged and in the practice of attending the meetings, okay? But the reality is nobody has a fear of video conferencing. They have a fear of public speaking. And what I'm seeing in these online meetings is people are really not growing their public speaking skills. Okay. And I've seen too many speakers that never would do this in the club meeting when they're standing up by the lectern, but I see them reading their speeches. And we're like me today, I'm a talking head. Those of you that have seen me in person, you know how dynamic I am. I'm all over the stage and all this stuff, but it's restrictive. And by the way, I thought the gentleman that won the World Championship of Public Speaking was masterful in his use of the screen and going from this to this, and it was great, but it's not the same thing. So for me personally, I'm not a fan of these online meetings. I feel like they're not getting the full Toastmasters experience. My joke all along was you could have somebody that, going back to the old program, they finished their Competent Communicator Award and they gave that 10th speech, inspire your audience, and the PQD saw that speech and said, boy, what a great speech. I'd like to have this person be a guest speaker at our district conference. And you go to that person, you say, I'd like you to speak at our district conference. They go, you mean in front of real people live? They wouldn't be ready for it. They would not have gained it. So again, that's just my opinion. 100% support that we needed to do it. And we still can charter clubs in this environment. We can get them started. But I promise you this, when they finally do meet in person, it's going to take it to an entirely new level. They're going to see their growth expand so much more when we do that, in my opinion. All right.
I would concur with that only because I went as a guest. This is Dawn, to a founders, I think it was Founders Club. I actually can't tell you where. And they were virtual. And I would say that several people read their speeches and I was disappointed. So I get it.
And another thing, I mean, look at me. I'm in a coat and tie today. I would do that if we were meeting in person. And some of you, and I'm not judging, but you're not dressed as we would if you would be meeting in person. So even from an attitude standpoint, we're not taking the meeting as seriously as if we would if we were meeting in person. So take it for what it's worth. Again, no judgment. For all you know, I'm in my bunny slippers underneath, right? You don't know. I'm not, by the way. All right, so let's move on and let's talk about club sponsor. What's the job of the club sponsor? This is the interactive portion. Go ahead and unmute.
To charter the club?
Perfect. Perfect. The job of the club sponsor is to get the club chartered. All right. And so what they're going to do, the process is when we find a lead, they don't have to come up with the lead necessarily themselves. but they're going to contact the new club lead. Now, if they're not prepared to have that conversation, somebody on the club growth team may do this, okay? But that person is also going to serve as the TI contact for the launch meeting. They're going to recruit the launch team. And by the way, I do say launch team. I learned this from District 5 a number of years ago. They said, you know, we used to call them demonstration meetings, but we wanted to make it clear, we are not here to demonstrate Toastmasters. We're here to launch a new club. And so I love that. So I take input from others. I'm always learning. And so I adopted that. So that's why we call them launch meetings now. I do. Okay. You want to make sure that you have the launch meeting. I'm going to explain a process where we get the club launched in one meeting, and I'll explain how we do that. And then you want to get the club officers elected and submit the charter paperwork, fees, and dues. And then finally, you'll plan a charter presentation ceremony. Once that is all done, you can wash your hands, and as club sponsor, your responsibilities are done. All right, any questions on that at a high level?
I do. What do you mean? Can you please explain with serve as TI contact for the launch meeting?
Okay, what that means is if there's people that have questions about what is Toastmasters and what can I expect at this meeting, that's somebody they could call and ask questions. Boy, the cough that wouldn't end. All right.
I have a question also. I use the word champion rather than sponsor. Sponsor seems kind of passive to me. Champion is somebody who's going to take the bull by the horns and make it happen. And it doesn't have to be an existing Toastmaster.
Right.
What an area director or even a club member can do is be the liaison to Toastmasters to answer questions. But the sponsor is really the person who, the champion is really the person who goes out and gets those 20 possible members, who works with somebody in Toastmasters.
Okay, well, see, to me, Lance, what you're talking about is the lead contact, the internal person within the organization. Typically, that's the champion. That person and
right, I agree.
A little semantics here. I hear what you're saying, but I think we still need somebody on the TI side that is going to, because that champion, if they're not Toastmasters, they wouldn't know how to liaise with the district team and the club growth team and who do I contact about the paperwork. So in the end, somebody else is going to end up doing that, and that would be the sponsor.
Aren't there two sponsors available? Two sponsorship availabilities?
Yeah, we're going to cover that later. You can have up to 2 sponsors and also 2 mentors. Absolutely. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely. So yeah, you could have one that's your internal champion and then the other one. But if they're not a Toastmaster, I guess, I don't know how that works. If you're not a Toastmaster when you sponsor the club, you're the champion, can you retroactively get credit for sponsoring the club within the TI program?
I think it's whatever the club that's chartering puts on the form.
Okay. All right.
It is what they put on the form, but if you're not a Toastmaster, then your sponsorship doesn't work.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Actually, you have to be being if you're not a Toastmaster, you can be a sponsor and a Toastmaster at the same time. We did it last year for LA Tech.
Okay. All right. Again, I don't know. I don't claim to know it all. So thank you. I appreciate it. So like I said, the sponsor is typically a little, it can be the champion, but typically the champion is the internal person that's really pushing it. And quite often, let's face it, we've had Toastmasters that are members of Rotary or Kiwanis, and they said, I want to sponsor a club within my Rotary club. Okay, fine. Now they're going to be the champion and they're the sponsor, but they're also an existing Toastmaster. So the job of the new club mentor is to really get the club off and started in the Toastmasters way. And you're supposed to get them on the right course. Legally, you're only supposed to do it for 6 months. I always ask for 12 months. I know other leaders that say we'd like to see 12 months. It's been 4 years since I chartered my last club. I'm still there. I'm still a member, and I still occasionally will, at the end of the meeting, say, okay, now I'm stepping up as your club mentor, and I'm going to mention a few things that we need to be corrected. You also make sure that the club officers understand their duties, familiarize the club officers with the Toastmasters education program. They have a word for that education program. What's it called again?
Oh, Alfred.
Pathways.
It's pathways. It's pathways. Is there anything in there about competent communicators or advanced communicators?
No.
Nope.
No. So
The
that
material is there, but it's different name.
it's not, yeah, well, no, it's not that those awards are no longer in existence. That's not part of the Toastmasters educational program anymore. So is it necessary that your new club mentor must be active in pathways, that they've on pathways, they know how to navigate it?
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. And then you want to make sure that the club understands what I call the Toastmaster standards. And it's funny because when I first joined Toastmasters, we had all these unwritten rules. And I thought, we're a communication organization. That's so weird that we have unwritten rules. Why don't we put these rules in writing? And we ended up actually doing that. And a lot of them have ended up in the Toastmasters promise. So again, I want this to be interactive. I want you two guys to help me with some of the Toastmaster standards. And I'm going to start with one for you. One of our standards is that our meetings start and end
On time.
on time. On time, right. That is a standard of excellence in Toastmasters, right?
Yes.
Again, this is the interactive portion. Okay. So please share some other standards that we have in Toastmasters.
A friendly and supportive club environment.
Okay.
Have to be an officer when called upon.
Okay. Actually, let me talk about that because that was interesting. I was on the board when we added the Toastmasters promise to the membership application. And Vanessa, that was actually a controversial thing in the Toastmasters board of directors. And the point that was brought up, wait a minute, this person is just joining the organization and you are already asking them to promise to be a club officer. What's the deal? And the response from the board was, and I love this, and that's why I really relish the opportunity to share this because I think it gets lost. What the board really meant by that was when the opportunity presents itself, we'd like you to at least be open to the possibility. So if the timing is right, we want you to be open to it. What we don't want is we don't want people that come into the organization and they're only there to take. Maybe you've seen this over the years. I certainly have. I've seen Toastmasters that join my club and they only want to attend meetings on the meetings that they are speaking. All right. I mean, I've honestly seen that. That's not a good member. You have to be there to be an evaluator, to be a timer, to do all those other roles. You can't speak every meeting. And if you don't have those other people doing those support roles, you can't have a club. And so very similar here with the officers. So great. What's another standard of excellence for the clubs?
Speakers.
And what about the speakers?
They need their intro.
Okay, but what's the I wouldn't call it a standard of excellence, but what do you need each speaker to do when they're speaking?
Prepare their speech.
And it needs to be a
Project
speech. All right, project speech. No, well, now we don't have manuals, but in the old days we said no non-manual speeches. You know, every speech has to be a project speech, all right? And I'm a bit of a jerk about that. If somebody says, I don't know what project it is, I said, you either find one or you're not speaking, all right? Because we want our members to be working the program and progressing through the program. And if that member is just there to speak, how is the evaluator going to evaluate them if they don't know what the objectives are of the speech, right? That's not fair. There's another standard of excellence that I'll give you a couple that I have. Number one, table topics. There's a right way and a wrong way to do table topics, in my opinion. Again, this is my opinion. In my opinion, table topics is in teaching impromptu speaking skills. And we don't have time in my clubs, to allow every person to participate. So in my clubs, we always ask the question first and then pick somebody to answer. And that forces everybody to go through the mental exercise of what if he asks me? What if he asks me? Let's face it, we're all lazy by nature. And if I say, okay, this next question is going to Cersei, all of us are going to take a little mental holiday. We're going to sit back and we're going to say, okay, let's see how Cersei answers this question. And halfway through her response, you're going to go, oh, I know what I would have said. But you didn't actually go through the exercise. So that is the standard of excellence for me in how we do table topics. Another one is evaluations. And for me, it is very, by the way, little Toastmasters trivia. Alfred Herzing, me, I am a past District 52 champion of the evaluation contest.
So am I.
Yeah, all right, Lance. So I have that distinction within District 52. So in evaluation, it is so important to personalize your language. I felt, I thought, and I'll give you a great example of where I saw it done very badly. I was attending a district conference for District 33 in beautiful downtown Bakersfield. All right. And they had their district evaluation contest. And again, these are supposedly the best of District 33. And we had one evaluator get up and said, regarding the speaker's speech, you had great gestures. A declarative statement stated as fact. The very next evaluator got up and said, your speech lacked gestures. Again, a declarative statement stated as fact in direct opposition. And the reality is they both could have been right, but they should have personalized their language, because the person that first saw the gestures probably was sitting up front and they could see them. I've been in the audience where I'm back in the room and all of the gestures are here. So you're not even seeing them on the screen. I'm moving my hands around. You're not even seeing them. And so those gestures are not visible to the back of the room. And so that's why you could say, I didn't see any gestures. You need to personalize your language. So that's what I mean by Toastmasters standards. It's important that the new club mentor helps establish those standards. And then you need to help recruit and retain members. The biggest mistake brand new clubs make is they say, oh, we have our charter strength, we're off, we're going, and we don't need to worry about bringing any new people. No, you must immediately start looking at bringing new members, because even your charter members, you're going to lose some of them even before the first year is over, right? Any questions on what I've covered so far?
With regard to
I'd just like to add, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Okay, hi, EP McKnight here. I'd just like to add to what you said, Alfred, regarding the evaluator. I actually think they're one of the crucial opportunities for everyone to learn, not only the person being evaluated, but new people that are coming in and all the other club members, because when someone is evaluating someone else, you pick up little tips, not only on their presentation, how they're evaluating, but little tips that you can use in your presentation. For example, someone would say, well, maybe you need to use more vocal variety. It makes it a lot more interesting. So this new person that's there, or someone who's giving their icebreaker, think, well, oh, maybe in my next speech, I'm going to add that element. So the evaluator really kind of educates everybody. I just wanted to add that, Alfred.
Absolutely. Thank you, EP. And you're right. And that's why evaluations are so critical to our Toastmasters program. They are absolutely. And I know of a gentleman, unfortunately, he's passed away, but he was a professional speaker. He was being paid to speak. And the reason he joined Toastmasters over NSA was because of our evaluations. He said it is so valuable to get that feedback. But EP, again, what I'm saying is when you give that feedback, we're just giving our opinion. Even me as a past international president, that doesn't necessarily make me an expert, right? All I can do is give my opinion, and my opinion is based on my perspective. But you're absolutely right. When people evaluate, they're not just evaluating the speaker, they're giving ideas to everybody in the club. So
And
yeah.
it's something we really have to catch ourselves on. EP, even a moment ago, you said you should have more vocal variety rather than I would have liked to have seen more vocal variety. Alfred, I have a question regarding standards. How do you phrase the attendance as a standard? Like, we want you to attend all clubs or at least as many as you possibly can. How do we say that?
Well, that's, you know, it's in the Toastmasters promise, and all you can do, I think this is all you can do because people are volunteers, is you can say, you know, you're promising to attend the meetings that you're able to. Obviously, you know, you go on vacation, you have other things go on, but we want you to be here. And it's actually now I'm going to flip hats and talk to you leaders. It's our leaders, starting with the club officers, to make sure that our meetings are powerful and engaging so that members will want to join. And an example is, you know, if you have a long, boring business meeting as part of your agenda, and people come in late after the business meeting, they may go, oh, good, I missed the boring part of the meeting. You want to make sure that the meetings are quick, that they're engaging, and that they're fun, and that will make people want to come. So we are asking them in the Toastmasters promise to attend and be there. But the other point I make, Lance, is I point out that Toastmasters, we're unique in this, okay? We've mentioned Rotary, Lions, Kiwanis. There's a lot of other great service organizations, but the beneficiary of those organizations is somebody else. Toastmasters is unique in that the beneficiary of our program is the actual member, right? And so this is what makes us different. And so what I tell folks is, look, this is an investment you are making in yourself. Aren't you worth an hour every week? And when I ask that question, I've never had anybody say no. So as far as the standard of excellence, that's personally not one I hit on. We mentioned in the Toastmasters promise. I do mention in the induction ceremony, you're promising to attend meetings and fully prepare for your duties. But at the end of the day, it's really up to the club leaders to make sure that we're having engaging and fun meetings that make those people want to attend. My opinion. See, yes, EP, did you have another point?
I know I have another question. Earlier you were talking about, you know, starting clubs in different locations. I'm not sure if anyone mentioned, but Alfred, do you think a police department is a good place to have a club because they do lack communication?
Absolutely. No, that would be a wonderful club. In fact, there used to be a club in District 52 at the Police Academy. I don't know if there still is. No,
Okay.
Not anymore. Okay. But no, EP, great idea. And boy, with all the things that are going on politically, I think they'd be very open to that idea right now.
We actually have an LAPD Code 1 club.
Yeah.
So they're in the main, it's not Parker Center anymore, but it's the main LAPD in downtown.
But
Okay.
the police academy is the police academy is really far from downtown. So they're completely separate places.
Right. Okay, excellent.
Also, a particular
May I ask a question,
department-
please?
a particular police department is not going to have, I think, enough actual people there to support a club because they're in and out and taking care of their business.
Well,
they only have like 40 people at a particular department.
but then you take it to the next level. You go to the division or whatever the structure is, and you
Good.
get up to the high enough level. And actually, you know, again, LAPD headquarters, it sounds like, has one. You might take it to the next branch down and say, okay, can we do it there? Somebody had a question, please.
I do. I have a question. As far as the police department, if well, back in the old days, at least, we were able to hold meetings there. And sometimes cadets and different police people do want to take a look and see what our club is all about. So if the police department in itself is not interested in starting up a Toastmasters club, often they will facilitate and offer that community opportunity. I do have one quick question. It may or may not, it might be a little bit off target here, but my question to you is, how do we run a beautiful meeting? It's, you know, very professional and outstanding meeting when you have 8 members in that club and everyone's wearing 2 or 3 hats? How do we look good to attract people in our club that might be minuscule at this time?
Yeah, no, excellent point, Janet. And I think, you know, if clubs are in that situation, they have to do the best they can, but this is where speechcraft comes in. I'm a big proponent of speechcraft, and that's a topic for a different session, but I did this in District 52, and I have a program where instantly at the end of the program, the club gets 12 new members. And a division director in downtown Los Angeles did it a few years ago. He had 100% of the speechcrafters join the club. And Greg Scott used my technique. He ended up chartering a new club at the University of Riverside. So speechcraft, I think, is the tool there, but you're absolutely right. And that, you know, that brings me to the point, I might as well cover it now. We talk about charter strength as 20 members in a club. Why do you think that is? Why is 20 the magic number?
I think because some people are not going to be there, but it takes about 15 people to run a good, powerful, effective meeting.
Exactly.
And so 20 guarantees you will have 15.
Right. If you look at the number of roles in a Toastmasters club meeting, you know, your actual club may vary. It takes
that's what you said.
12 to 15 people to run a meeting, and you can't expect that everybody can attend every meeting. And so by having 20 members, you can spread out that workload, and it creates more energy in the room as well. Again, it's not the same energy when we do these online meetings, I'm sorry, but when you're in a room full of people, there's energy there, and it's much more exciting for the speakers. When I was on the board, we surveyed our members. The number one thing our members want when they speak in their audience is in their club is an audience. And so you're right. It's no fun to prepare that speech all week and show up and there's 4 other people there. It's not the same thing. So that again is the standard of excellence. We want to get back to the charter strength and be as close, if not over, as we can. Lance,
Alfred, may I give Janet another suggestion, and that is, if you have only 7 or 8 or 9 people, make sure everything is very well organized in advance so that the meeting, even though there are few people there, you might cut out a couple of functionaries, but it's smooth, operates well and quickly, and any guest is going to be impressed.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, the sponsor can also be the club mentor. It's not exclusive. So if you're the sponsor, you can also be the new club mentor. I typically do that. And some people, they can have 2 sponsors. They can also have 2 mentors. Personally, I don't like having a second mentor when I am the club mentor because I'm sorry, there's Alfred's way. And if you don't agree with me, you're wrong. I mentioned earlier my very specific rules about table topics, that there's a right way to do it, in my opinion. And again, other clubs can do it other ways, but when you have a second mentor, sometimes you can clash on what that style would be. So this comes back to what I've learned through my years in Toastmasters, and also my agenda is very, very well thought out. Nothing happens by mistake in that agenda. We do table topics, prepared speeches, and then evaluations. And after the evaluators evaluate, we next give the grammarians report while the club is voting for best evaluator. Because if the general evaluator were to jump into evaluating the evaluators while people were still balloting, that might influence those votes. So like I said, everything on my agenda is thought out. Nothing happens by mistake.
Alfred, I'm not jumping ahead, but how, when we're talking about club standards, how do moments of truth fit into that?
Well, I think every club should be doing Moments of Truth every year. It's a great tool to do self-analysis. The biggest mistake, though, is some people think that everything that TI Listen Moments of Truth is something that you must do. For instance, they mentioned about having name badges in there. None of my clubs use name badges, and name badges are very bad for speakers. And unfortunately, even in the TI videos, they show people wearing their name badges. Why? Because they want to sell the name badges. You notice today I'm not wearing my name badge. Why? Because you wouldn't be able to read it on the screen. It would not be helpful. And so what we do in my clubs at the beginning of every meeting, we have everybody introduce themselves. In some clubs, we've even had the tents, the name tent in front of the individual, but we don't want to have something in front on the person when they go up front, because actually, unless they remember to take it off, which people typically don't. And when I was international president, I even instructed my board members on this. You always remove your badge when you go up to the front of the room to speak, because our message is delivered from our face, and more specifically our eyes. And anything that distracts from that distracts from our message. I learned this in an advanced speaking course outside of Toastmaster. It was an excellent course, but this gentleman was spot on. And so for guys, you don't want to have a busy tie. There's a past district governor and founders district that loves to wear cartoon ties. And next thing you know, you're thinking about, oh, that cartoon character. And I remember that cartoon I saw, and your mind wanders off. It can be too busy. Ladies, don't want the dangling earrings, because again, those become kind of mesmerizing of people watching your earrings move instead of focusing on you. And the same thing with a name badge. I'll wear my pin. The pin is very basic, but that's not my name. It's just a symbol for our organization. So good question. Did I cover it?
Yeah.
I wanted to ask Alfred, if you don't mind.
Please.
I wanted to ask, is there a chance you could go over those things that you keep dropping hints at? Like, you have another meeting, or do you have a piece of paper, some kind of,
what?
The thing you mentioned just 2 minutes ago, and I was trying to write it down. You said it after Moments of Truth, or maybe right before. Nothing happens by mistake in your agenda.
Oh.
Like about table topics, I think is fabulous.
Yeah, well, again, that's just Alfred's way of running a meeting. If you want, I can send you a copy of an agenda, but there's no separate presentation on that.
Grammarian's report.
Yeah, the grammarian's report is done after the evaluations are done, before the general evaluator starts to evaluate the evaluators. And again, every club does things a little differently. When I visited Bangkok Toastmasters, speaking of city names, and believe me, Bangkok has tens of clubs. I don't want to say hundreds, but when I visited them, their general evaluator did not evaluate the evaluators. So I offered that as an idea. Again, I'm not there to tell them what to do. They have a great club. They've been very successful. The club has been in existence for many, 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 many years. It's just, hey, have you ever thought that you might have the general evaluator evaluate the evaluators, because the speakers have already been evaluated by the evaluators, but there's nobody evaluating them. And, I don't know if they ever did it, but it was just something that I offered. And that's what you do as an area director. If you visit a club and you see something, you offer an idea or suggestion. You're not there to tell them, well, the Toastmasters way of doing things is, that's not our job. We don't impose that on them. We just offer suggestions and mentor and give ideas.
And as an area director, I usually offer that kind of suggestion privately to the officers, not in front of the whole club.
Okay. So Janet did ask for the agenda, so why don't I'll send that to Circe, and then I'll let her distribute it as you guys want. But yeah, just again, it's not the perfect meeting, but this is just the way we do it. Yeah.
But some of our club officers are really new, and some of them are stepping up because they don't have enough officers that will step up, and they're new. And having an agenda that works is just one tool that'll make their club meeting better without having to do all that extra thinking and working. So
good.
Yeah.
And what I like about my agenda, it's everything is laid out there, and it's amazing to see all the people that are before, like, I'm not sure what to do next. It's like, read the next line on the agenda. And just go to the next line, go to the next line. It's all laid out for them. It's
also, agendas should have the times so that a Toastmaster can keep it on timeline.
Yeah, exactly. And then I also like to see, again, this is just me, I like to see the general evaluator time too, because we had one this week where the general evaluation could have qualified for a project speech. And it's like, no, it needs to be short and focused too. All right, any other questions? I love the interaction. This is awesome. Bless you guys. All right, so let's go back to the steps to charter. So once we have the lead, we're going to contact the lead organization. And ideally, we want to go after the top person in the organization. Now, they may put us in contact with somebody else, but we always want to start with them. And when I reach out to them, I have this golden sentence. And you want to take a moment to write this down. If I can get my screen to change. There we go. We'd like to have a short meeting with you, discuss the benefits of having a Toastmasters program. Actually, we need to change that. This is an old version. Toastmasters program in your organization. All right. There are a couple key words there that I highlighted. Short. When you're talking to a senior executive, you want to have an hour meeting, you're not going to get an hour meeting. But when you ask for a short meeting, they might open their calendar for you. What does short mean? Short could mean 5 minutes. It could mean 15 minutes. I can do it in 5 minutes, but if we can have 15, that's wonderful. And then we want to discuss the benefits of having a Toastmasters program in your organization. We want it, again, the key word there is benefit. So if the executive that you reach out to says, we're not interested, what do you say?
Thank you very much.
Do you know someone who would?
Yeah, well, I would just say thank you very much. And then you politely hang up and then you say to yourself, what an idiot.
I would leave the door open and said, you know, down the road in the future, if you decide to change and want some of our benefits, we will be more than happy to accommodate you.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Absolutely. That's closing. But basically what I'm saying is you just say, you close the conversation and there's a famous word in sales that's called next. And you just go to the next lead.
Well, one other possibility is to say, if you find in the future that your company members would benefit from being more effective leaders and speakers, contact me.
Again, see, the thing is, they've shut the door. This is such a simple sentence and such a short, such an easy ask. We want to have a short meeting with you to discuss the benefits. If they're not interested in even hearing the benefits that could possibly happen from a short meeting, then we're done, you know? When I did a presidential visit to the great state of Kansas, they drove me for an hour and a half out of town for an interview in this little town. And this was a radio interview. And it was a good use of our time because this radio station broadcasted over 4 states. And millions of people heard that interview with me as international president. But it was a long drive and we got to town a little bit early. And so I said, why don't we see if we can't get a club lead for you guys? Because again, I'm focusing on building new clubs even back then. My purpose in doing those presidential visits was to open doors and get club leads for the district. And so we went to the Chamber of Commerce and we identified the largest employer in that small town. We went to their plant. This is a Friday morning. We show up unannounced and we talked to the receptionist. I said, I'd like to speak to the plant manager, please. I'm the international president of Toastmasters International. I happen to be in town for a radio interview. I'd like to just meet the plant manager. And she said, unfortunately, the plant manager is not here, but I'll have the HR director come out. So the HR director comes out. I said, I just in town explained who I am, why I'm there. I said, we just wanted to real quickly discuss the benefits of you having a Toastmasters program here in your organization. And he said, oh, we don't need Toastmasters. And I said, thank you very much for your time. And we left. And again, I thought, what an idiot. You know, the guy was not even open to hearing what we might have to offer, right? Does that make sense?
I have a question, please.
Yes, Jackie.
When I was researching leads, I could find a lot of them, but I had trouble getting to the top person. I kept getting screened out, or when I'd go online to research their organization, you couldn't find the person. Have you got any hints on how to get to the top person in the organization to pitch?
There's a tool called Reference USA, and you can use that. It's available in many public libraries. My company uses it, and they have all kinds of information about companies, and it usually does list the top person. Another thing is, if it is literally a company, you can go to the state of California documentation. I forget what it's called, Secretary of State, I think it is, but you can look it up. You can search a business and then you find their documents and it lists who the CEO is.
Great, thank you very much. That'll be helpful.
You're welcome. And if you're getting roadblocked, you know, you can only do what you can do. And you could just say, you know, I just want to have, and you would tell the screener, you know, I just want to have a short conversation with them to discuss whether they might be open to having a meeting about the benefits of having a Toastmasters program in your organization. And the reason we use program instead of club is, I learned this from Pat Johnson's book on building clubs. She said in corporate worlds, when you say club, it implies it's more like social, like the camera club or something, the hiking club. And we're an educational organization. So using that term club kind of downplays the educational value that we're bringing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So that's the golden sentence.
Next slide.
And then if they say no, we just go on to the next one. So we next will have that pre-meeting with them. Let's say, yes, absolutely. So we're going to have that pre-meeting. You want to have the club sponsor come with you to that meeting. And you want to have, if that person isn't prepared to have this conversation, have somebody that is very, very secure in the benefits of Toastmasters, that they've gone through it themselves. They know how they've gained and grown, and they can talk from a position of strength and confidence about the organization. And what you want to do is you want to discuss the benefits of Toastmasters for the organization. What's in it for them? And what I've typically done is when I meet with these executives, I say, have you ever had a business meeting that didn't start or end on time? And who hasn't, right? So it's an easy question. And, you know, typically, oh yeah, it threw the whole calendar off for the rest of the day. Toastmasters can help you with that. Have you ever had somebody present to you and you could tell they knew their material, but they just weren't able to communicate it to you? They weren't getting to the point. Yes, we absolutely. I said, Toastmasters can help you with that. I said, you know, we are building skills that are going to help your employees communicate with their peers, your management team, and most importantly, your customers. And typically, I don't need to say much more than that. They're bought into it. A lot of times, they used to say Toastmasters is the best kept secret. It no longer is. Most of the time when I meet with these executives, they themselves have been a Toastmaster, or they know of somebody that's gone through the program. And so often I will hear the testimonial from the executive. Oh man, Toastmasters is so amazing. I saw how Debbie joined and just the growth in her was just amazing. And now she's a key member of our team. So that they sell themselves on it. And we want to set a launch date for the launch meeting, the date for that. And you don't want to set it too far out, okay? Today it's October 17th. Happy birthday, Adam. It's my son's birthday today. And if I were to say, okay, we're having our launch meeting on November 10th, people are going to think, oh, that's so far out. I'll get to it later. I'll schedule it later. Because it doesn't have any sense of urgency. No matter when you pick a date, there's always going to be some people that can't attend. So there's never a perfect date. So I say, just pick a date at least a week out. You want to have time to do publicity, but no more than 2 weeks out. Because again, like I said, it gets so far out that people are like, oh, I'm not worrying about that. If somebody were telling you there's going to be a meeting in February 2021, that's not something that's going to have any urgency to you, right? And then I ask the person I'm meeting with that I need them to guarantee that they're going to have a minimum of 30 people there at that meeting. Again, they've already bought in that they want this. And I said, we're going to bring out a team. We're going to launch this club. But in order for me to take the time to bring my folks out there, I need to make sure that you are going to guarantee us to have at least 30 people in the audience. Why do we want 30 people in the audience?
Because probably 20 people or so are going to show up.
Well, no, we want 30 there because we want 20 to sign up.
Okay, hopefully they won't flake then, that they'll honor that.
Because if you only bring 20, then not all of them will always sign up.
Right.
You're aiming too close to the barbed wire.
Beautiful.
Right, no, I'm in agreement with you guys. What I'm saying is, ideally 30 people are going to show up, but sometimes that just doesn't happen.
Right.
That's
But
all
again,
I'm saying.
no, Janet, I hear you and I understand, but this is what I'm asking them. I'm asking them to guarantee that they're going to have a minimum of 30 people there.
I agree.
Because again, as you heard from my introduction, I launch clubs in one launch meeting. I hear these horror stories of clubs that take 6, 8, 9, sometimes more than a year to finally get up to 20. And it's like, that's just too painful. In my opinion, if I can't find 20 excited people while this idea is fresh, I'm going to pull the plug. We're not going to charter the club, and we're going to find other opportunities. There are so many opportunities out there, ladies and gentlemen. You know how amazing Toastmasters is. And again, now I'm putting on the Ferrari hat. We have to come from a position of strength and recognize how powerful our program is, how amazing it is, how it benefits people. And so if these people don't get it, again, next, we'll go to the next group. We'll find a group. And it's funny because I mentioned pulling the plug. I was talking to a mentee a few years ago, and she was the club growth director, and she had inherited a club that had not chartered the previous year. And she was struggling trying to get the club up to 20. And I said, you need to give them a deadline and make it like 2 meetings out. It can't be too extreme, but give them 2 meetings. And if they're not at 20, you need to pull the plug. And she said, Alfred, pull the plug. That sounds so cruel and crude. And oh my gosh, that's terrible. I said, well, think about it. Let's say you happen to finally get that club across the line and you do get them to charter. They're not going to be a strong club. You already know that. And they'll probably hang on by the skin of their teeth the following year. Guess who's going to be district director the year they decide to turn in their charter? Said you're creating your own future problem. And when we start these clubs, let me make this point now. We are not talking about paper clubs. We want to build strong, vibrant, sustainable clubs. And that is so important that we do that, right? So that's why we want a minimum of 30 people there. All right.
Thank you, Alfred. I just want to say thank you for that. And I'm totally on point with you and Cersei and everyone. So I'm in favor of pulling the plug. I know in past leaderships, I've been instructed to keep going and going and going. And I think Cersei is in agreement with what you're saying as well. So I appreciate that. That means a lot to me. And I'm sure the rest of the leaders here on this this training today.
Thank you. No, thank you so much. It is an important, and of course, that's just my opinion, but we have so much limited time in Toastmasters. You know, your family, your work, all of that comes before Toastmasters. And so each one of you has only so many hours that you can dedicate to Toastmasters. We want to make sure we're working smart, not hard. And we want to make sure the time we're investing is getting the right results. And that's why it's proper for districts to focus on chartering new clubs, because again, that's the one thing we directly control. And Janet, as a leader of a President's Distinguished District, which was the top level then, so it's Smedley current equivalent, she will tell you that it took that focus in order to make it happen. It didn't happen by accident. I always say it's simple, not easy, okay? It's simple. You just have to build these clubs and support those clubs. It's simple. There's nothing confusing about it, but it's not easy. All right. And then we want a quote of support from the executive about this Toastmasters and the launch meeting. And I'll get to that. I'll give that to you. And then you need to determine in this pre-meeting if the organization is going to pay any portion of the charter fee or the membership dues of the members. Some companies will pay for everything. Whenever they offer that, I always encourage them to allow us to at least have the club members pay even a nominal $1 per month club dues, because if the company's paying for everything, the members don't have any skin in the game. And I've heard of companies that said, again, old program, once you completed your competent communicator, they would reimburse your Toastmasters expenses up to that point. When I was international president, my third vice president was John Greiner. And John Greiner, when he was international president, he visited Standard & Poor's in Manhattan. Is everybody familiar with S&P, Standard & Poor's? And what Standard & Poor's does is when members of that club, again, back then, when they completed their competent communicator award, the company would pay that individual $1,000. And if you think about it from the company's perspective, that's a great investment. Think about the skills that person has gained by giving those 10 speeches. And $1,000 is really not that much to pay. But also just imagine for the club members how amazing that is. I just envisioned they had a big waiting list for people wanting to join that club. But whatever the company is going to pay, that needs to be determined in advance, because when you do the launch meeting, when you do the close, you have to be explicit about, this is what it's going to cost for you to join today. This is the investment, right? Yeah. And yeah, the question was, should we refer to Toastmasters clubs as the program community? Absolutely. I think that's a good way, just be consistent about that. It is a Toastmasters club, but when you're trying to sell it, again, we'd like to talk to you about the benefits of having a Toastmasters program in your community. I think that's the way to word it. All right. So we want to discuss the benefits, not the features. So we're not going to, I mentioned this about meetings starting and ending on time. Another thing is most companies do performance appraisals. And I will say Toastmasters teaches you a way of doing that performance appraisals that supports the employees, because companies want to keep good employees, right? So this supports their existing employees, reinforces the good things they're doing, and still offers one or two things that they might want to work on. And then we also build the impromptu speaking skills. And like I said this earlier, they're going to improve their communication skills as Toastmaster members of your company talk to your peers, your management, most importantly, your customers. And here is, okay, so we talked about the launch date, why we do that, the minimum number of people. All right, now we need a statement of support. Here's the reality. Everybody is busy today, right? Even during lockdown, people found ways to stay busy. So we need to get their interest to visit Toastmasters and hopefully become a member. And here's the quote, all right? The skills you learn in Toastmasters will help you in your personal life and your career here at XYZ Corporation. I encourage you to check it out and then have it signed the Big Boss CEO. I always ask for a statement of support, and most of the time they'll say, sure, I can do that. When they hesitate, I said, we'd be happy to draft one for you. And when I've said that, 100% have said yes. And this is the one that we draft for them. Now, when we're talking about the funds that we're going to collect, we need to collect the 6 months dues plus the prorated portion. If a club chartered last month in September, you are going to have to come back and ask them almost immediately for that extra month's dues. You don't want to do that. And especially in the corporate environment, I have heard so many stories of brand new clubs that folded immediately because of the roadblock. So you always want to charge enough up front to cover the 6 months that TI requires as part of the charter, but then any prorated amount if you're within a few months of that renewal period. And by the way, I do the same thing with new members when they're joining the club. I'd rather have somebody pay $75 when they initially join the club, paying the new member fee and their dues for the 6 months plus the prorated, because that puts that amount in their mind. And so when they renew, they're thinking, oh, it's going to be about $75, even though you told them, well, it includes a $20 new member fee. They forget that. They just remember $75. And then when you come back for renewal and it's $51, which is $45 international plus $1 per month club dues, they're like 51. Oh, this is a bargain. I thought it was going to be 75. It's all psychological, right? And so that's why I do that approach. All right. You need to know that cost going in. Oh, it went the wrong direction. All right. So now let's talk about the launch team. What's the minimum number of people you need for a launch team?
20?
Is it 20?
For a launch team, the group that's going to
It's
come in
8.
with existing members.
Isn't it 8?
According to Alfred, 1.
They only need one. They
Really?
only need one. I was a one-person launch team. Now, I don't recommend that, but it can be done. But you can only need one. But it's ideally you're going to have a handful of Toastmasters. How many? You know, it doesn't. You don't want to bring in an army, but you want to have somebody that's going to be the Toastmaster, and they should. You also need a closer. They may or may not be the same person. All right. What's the closer going to ask at the end? Most
Who
important
wants to
question.
join?
Who's ready to join? Exactly. You're going to want a table topics master. You're going to want a speaker. Do you ask Lance, past world champion of public speaking, to be a test speaker, or I mean, a speaker at a launch meeting?
No,
No, why not?
he's too good and people will be intimidated.
Exactly. He's so polished, so good. People are like, oh my gosh, I could never be like him. Ideally, you want somebody that's given 2 or 3 speeches in the program. They're already benefiting. And the topic I like them to always speak about is how I'm already benefiting by being a member of Toastmasters. And again, this can definitely be counted as a program speech in Pathways. So they're not going to be losing a speaking opportunity by doing that. And if you have a second speaker, it's not necessary, but if you have a second speaker, then you can have a more advanced speaker that can talk about the program and the benefits, a longer term. Like me, you know, if I were doing it, I could mention I got 5 promotions as by being a member of Toastmasters and, you know, how I've grown through the program. But if I were the only speaker, no, that wouldn't fly. And then you need at least one evaluator. Now, in that evaluator, do you pick the nitpick person that points out that every single thing that's wrong with the speech?
Nope.
No. You want somebody that is very positive in their reinforcement, that personalizes their language, as I mentioned before, because for all of these prospective members, this is their first opportunity to see what a Toastmasters evaluation is. And so you really want it to be a model one. You want to make sure that the person restates the objectives of the presentation, talks about the things that they liked in their opinion, and then offers 1 or 2 suggestions for improvement. And if you're really, really good, and this is on, you guys know this, if you're judging for the contest, the large percentage of the score is also the summary, because an evaluation, just like a table topic, should be like a prepared speech, have an opening, a body, and conclusion. So again, you want somebody that's going to be very, very good about that, very warm, very nurturing, but not somebody that's going to give a whitewash. They do have to have some suggestions for improvement. And of course, you need a timer. You don't need a general evaluator or a grammarian joke master. In fact, in the launch meeting, it's not even necessary for the timer to stand up and explain their duties. Although actually that's not a bad idea because it sets that thing. Now, the sponsoring club, if you have a sponsoring club that the club sponsor is from, they can also bring people from there. It's interesting, that last club I chartered, I mentioned, we had the launch meeting scheduled for June 20th. And the district leaders called me that week and said, Alfred, I'm so sorry, but June 20th is actually the night of the district officer installation, and there's nobody from our launch team that's going to be available to help you with this launch meeting. And I said, well, I appreciate the call, but actually I've already put together my own team. I was not expecting any support from the district. And what I did was I went to different club members that I knew and asked if they would be willing to help out in doing this launch meeting, and they all agreed. And we had a great launch meeting. So the sponsoring club can also provide some of those. Any questions about the launch team? Now, the launch meeting itself is an abbreviated Toastmasters meeting. If you have an hour scheduled for the launch meeting, the demonstration portion of it should be no longer than half an hour. You must leave time to answer questions, collect payments and applications. And I know of an example of a launch meeting that was done in the last couple years where they had this huge opportunity with the corporation, and the person organizing it organized an hour-and-a-half launch meeting. And the corporation had already come back and told this person, you can't have an hour. That's too much time. We can only give you an hour. She didn't get the message. She didn't communicate it to her team. And her team was very verbose and long. And after an hour, people were leaving the room. They had 50 people in that launch meeting, and they didn't sign up a single person that day. And so that's the disaster. It has to be an abbreviated meeting. You get through it, then you answer questions. And again, you explain what it is. You talk about the benefits of being a charter member for the club. What are the benefits of being a charter member, guys?
It only happens once.
You are remembered forever.
It only happens once in the history of the club. Once the charter group is sent in, nobody ever again in the history of the club can be a charter member. And I remember when I formed my Yorba Linda club, members would stand up and introduce themselves at the beginning of the meeting. And those that were charter members, they would identify themselves as charter members. And I remember one, hi, my name is Eli Ruiz, and I'm a charter member of this club. Well, new members that are joining, they've learned by observing others. That's how they learn the protocol of saying, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests, right? They learned that by observing. And this newer member said, my name is Susie Smith, and I'm a charter member of the club. And we said, Susie, no, we have to explain what that means. You're not a charter member. So it's a once in a lifetime opportunity for the club. And also, let's face it, people are mostly afraid of public speaking. And another benefit is all of them get to do it together as a group. And so they're all learning and growing together. And so they're stumbling through it together at the same time. And I tell them, after just a few months, you're going to have new people come in, and they're going to be so impressed by you. They're going to say, oh my gosh, you guys are so good. So good. Yeah. Oh, there's a question in the chat about the $1 a month. What would we use that for? In my clubs, we give out ribbons for best performance, for best speaker, best table topics. And so we have to purchase those. We also do voting. So we have to buy those ballots and things like that. So that's what we use the $1 for, to cover that. If we had to pay for the room, we'd have to end up paying a lot more than that. And then you collect the applications. And again, that closer has to ask that question, who's ready to join? And Roberta Perry taught me this. You want to have people ready in the audience, your shills. They're saying, I'm ready to join, I'm ready to join. You create that energy, you create that enthusiasm, and you let them know, as soon as we have 20 people, we're sending this application in. And somebody might say, well, I didn't bring my checkbook today. You say, hey, that's okay. Janet has her checkbook, and I'm sure if she writes it out on your behalf, you can pay her back, but we're going to get this done today. Now, I do want to do full disclosure here. It doesn't always work according to plan. This is going to Janet's point. We asked the launch team person and the internal side to ensure that they have 30 people at the launch meeting. The last club I chartered, the June 20th meeting, not only was it the night of the district officer installation, this gentleman had 35 people that said they were going to attend this launch meeting. But June 20th turned out to be Game 7 of the NBA playoffs. And so although 35 had said they were going to be there, 35 did not show up. In fact, we had 15 that showed up. We ended up signing up 12. And because of the timing, our next meeting would have been 4th of July. I said, no, we're not going to do that. So the next meeting was July 15th. And I told the gentleman that I was working with, again, I'm a bit of a hard nose. I said, if we don't have our 20 by the end of that July 15th meeting, I'm not going to charter this club. We're pulling the plug on it. Well, what he did was he followed up with people that said they were going to be there but did not attend. And he actually got us our charter numbers before we even had our second meeting. So technically we did charter in one meeting because before we had our second meeting, we did get the full number. And although it didn't happen that Toastmasters year, we were the very first club of the district for the following year. And this was back when we could actually take the paperwork into World Headquarters and take care of it there. So, yeah. So anyway.
Alfred, I have a question.
Yes.
It's Rose.
Hi, Rose.
Again, I remember you from Founders, by the way. So again, we are functioning in a virtual environment. We are not allowed to meet in person to have large gatherings of 30 people in one room. So around, collecting applications, collecting dues, I'm assuming now there's electronic versions of these applications and ways members can pay online. Is that right?
Well, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Now it's changed and you can actually provide the credit card and you give that information and they pay the international dues that way. And we have the PDF of the membership application. And so what you might even do, and I've seen people do this at launch meetings where they have the applications and they literally hand them out to everybody as they're coming into the room. So during the meeting, they've already had the application and they've had it in their hand. And at any point, if they decide, I think I want to do this, they can start filling out the application right then. And you can also do the same thing. You could post it in the chat so everybody could download the PDF of the application. And then of course, it's just with the online meetings, it's actually easier as far as getting the group because nobody has to travel. It's probably easier to get that minimum 30. But when you get those people to say, I want to do it, I want to do it, and then you collect all those afterwards, you can follow up afterwards with everybody and make sure it gets done.
Thanks, Alfred.
Yeah, good question. Thank you. It is a different environment and we're all learning as we go on this. So once the club has got the minimum 20, and again, I explained why 20 is the magic number, then you can come up with the club name, the meeting time, location, and frequency. Sometimes you might have worked out some of these details with the executive when you had that pre-meeting if it's a company club, and then you would elect the officers if you're not already done so. And again, on the dues, make sure you add the prorated amount, okay? I can't overemphasize it, which is why I mentioned it again. And then, Jim, Cersei, does the district have some experts on the paperwork? If somebody is a club sponsor and they're not sure exactly how to fill everything out?
Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The district has those resources. So don't sweat that. It's important, but we will help you get that done. I don't want anybody to hesitate to be a club sponsor because they were like, well, I don't know how to do the paperwork. We'll take care of that for you. And then I will email this presentation to Cersei. I'm going to update it because there were some things that were a little wrong. I'll fix that. I just picked one of the ones out of my directory. It ended up being an old one, not an old one. And but anyway, these resources are available on how you can do that, how to launch a club, how to build a Toastmasters club, the item 121. And it's step by step. It's not that hard. When we first talk about it, it sounds like it's intimidating, but when you break down the steps as I've done today, hopefully you can see that it really is quite doable. And again, area directors, we're not asking you to personally charter a club, but now you understand what's involved. So if you're approaching somebody to be a club sponsor and they ask, well, what does that mean? You now know what that means and all the steps that are involved in that. And you don't have to necessarily be an expert to explain every step, but just here it is at a high level, and then I'll get you some additional information to train you on it. So what we did today was we described the relationship between establishing new clubs and Toastmasters and the district missions. And again, it is vital to the mission of the district. It's first things first. It's our most important job. We build new clubs because when our district focused on speech contests, we were not distinguished. And even when Lance Miller became world champion of public speaking, did that make the district presidents distinguished? No. In fact, I don't recall the specifics, but I believe the district wasn't even distinguished that year, but I don't want to say that for sure. We identified that it is our number one focus because it's the one thing we control. And it would only make sense that we focus our time and effort on the things that we can directly control versus the things that we can only influence, right? And so by building a new club in each area, we can still lose a number of clubs and still be Smedley distinguished. This is our path to success. So now it's no longer pie in the sky. Oh, we're going to be Smedley. And everybody's like, oh, how are we going to do that? You have no idea. No, we do know. We know exactly how. And by the way, Regina Rhymes did this in District 1. She really followed this plan and she held her area directors accountable. And the result was not only was back then President's Distinguished was the highest recognition. Not only was she president, she was #1 in the Western Hemisphere, #4 in the world. So this is not just theory. This is actually how it works. So now what we're going to do is we're going to have Cersei do a roll call, and I'm going to ask the area directors to provide a date by which they're going to provide a lead. Madam District Director.
Thank you, Alfred. That was fantastic presentation, and I do appreciate your efforts, your detail in this. So how all of you were listening and all of you were thinking while this presentation was going on. I'm going to ask someone to step up and give me a date that they were thinking about while Alfred was talking. We introduced the idea early on in this meeting that we need a date from you. Why do I want a date? Because a goal is not a goal unless you establish something of of value, a fact. Your date is your fact. It's your future commitment. So who wants to volunteer a date for me so I can put it next to your name right now? Lance.
Yeah, I first of all, I have asked each of my clubs to come up with one lead so that my area will have more options to choose from. And the deadline is January 31st. That gives plenty of time to get more.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, who's next? Who's the date in mind? How much time will it take?
Cersei, if I could recommend, I'd suggest a different approach. If you have a list of the area directors, just go down the list and ask each one. Because if you're asking for volunteers, then people might be a little reticent. But we really want to have everybody give their thoughts on this.
Okay, Susie, you're on my screen first. How about you?
I am going to go with February 15th, because that way all of the holidays are over, Super Bowl is over, and I think that that's a good time to really get serious.
Excellent, Susie. Thank you. Vanessa.
I don't have a date yet.
Okay, well, can I interject something? Again, hopefully you got the message from this presentation that this is our #1 focus as a district, okay? And we're talking about 2 hours total brainstorming, okay? So again, not to pressure anybody, but if we could get these leads before the holidays, we could start reaching out, making contacts, and then prepare to do the launch meetings right after the holidays. Just something to think about.
So what you're asking for is you're asking for a lead only, not a launch, correct?
Right, just the lead. Thank you for the clarification, Dawn.
Okay. Elisa.
I was thinking about April 1st.
Okay,
I'm
April.
pretty busy through the end of the year.
Okay, if you get it sooner, pass it on. William,
December 31st.
good job. Okay. Judy,
December 31st.
ooh, I like it. Okay. Let's see, Carla,
December 31st.
nice job. Kushik,
January 15th.
okay, gotcha. All right, Paul Reyes,
I already had February 10th in my mind.
10th, okay. Where's your name on the list? Yes. Okay, Sharon,
All due by February 1st.
February 1st, okay. And let's see, Ariane,
I'll do on first day of spring, March 21st.
okay. Eva,
Sorry, March 31st.
okay. Rushi,
My question is, I can provide you the date, but what if I don't meet it?
well then update the meeting date, the date with me and we'll put it down.
Okay, I'm thinking March 31st, 2021.
Okay,
And also there are district resources to help you with that brainstorming too. If you're stuck for ideas, don't wait till the last minute to say, oh, I am not coming up with one. Let us know and we can help you with that as well.
okay. Shalonda,
January 31st.
all right, okay. Nobody's picked my birthday yet.
What is it?
My birthday is January 21st.
Early happy birthday.
I'm close, 10 days after.
Yeah, you're close. Okay, let's see. Who am I missing here? 2, 3, that's it.
Jen Choi, she's not on the meeting, so I'm going to volunteer her for November 30th because I'll help her. I'll
Okay.
actually help everyone on my team. I think we need some for this year.
Having trouble. Yep. Okay. EP,
I'm going to try for February 15th as my partner is doing, but if I
Yay.
decide to go sooner, I will aim for the end of the year, December 31st, but I'll let you know.
okay. Well, I'm going to put you down for the end of the year and you can always update it to the other date, okay?
Okay.
Awesome. Okay. I think, let's see, Janet. I'm going to ask, Sharon Goldhammer, did you give me a date? Because I put the date down somewhere else.
Oh, yes, I said February 1st.
February 1st. Let me check my list. Tessa, did you change your mind?
Only concern is once I give you a lead, how quickly will you act on it?
Immediately.
Okay, I might have one already.
Okay, so give me a date.
Today.
Okay. This is 10/17. Very nice. I like that. Okay. Now
That is very inspiring though.
It is very inspiring. Okay, I have another area director who's not on the call who's told me that she is starting a club. So she's providing her own lead and starting a club. So that's very exciting. I have all of the names of everyone, I believe, let's see. Where did Shalonda? Everyone. I am going to post this. We have, last term I was putting together some web on our website information. And I actually built a page called a leads page where people could submit their leads on the website and it went right to the club growth director. I'm going to reactivate that page and I'm also going to put a calendar up there with these dates. So you guys know when your dates are The goals are there, and we will be able to focus on it. Put it on your focus board, your goal board, whatever you call it, and let's see this happen. And I'm very excited that you guys have all given me and this is our growth. This is what makes us all successful. And I appreciate every one of you for doing what Alfred has talked about, the suggestions that he's made, and you use this his presentation and the materials that we send out to reinforce what you got here today. Don't let just this meeting go bye-bye and you forget. Go over this recording again. Be inspired. Let the presentation talk to you over and over and over again. I know that works for me. And use the suggestions that he said and use some that you've got. I would also like to have you share what ideas you've come up with, what you've thought about. Well, what about, like when Carla said, what about the PTA and what about the neighborhood councils? If we have a way of sharing those resources, we're successful all the way across the board, and getting the 24 clubs will not be hard. Yes, Janet.
I wanted to ask you this, Cersei, because I'm crediting Jim Kearney. He's very proactive in his leadership, and he is encouraging all the division directors to start an advanced leaders club, which I know you're aware of what he's developing. And I and Linda Kotakumagai, she's the area director, we are going to create this new club. We have the lead ready for you. We can give it to you. She wants to do it on Monday. And also the division directors have that opportunity if they want to maybe co-start a club. And even though it's advanced, I know we're not big on advanced, but maybe Jim could explain just briefly why he's doing this. And I think it's going to make our district run more efficiently and smoothly. And this is something that could continue going forward.
Okay.
Lance has a question.
Yes,
I have a comment. As an area director, I am not just me. I am currently about 70 members. So instead of just doing my 2 perfunctory club visits, I'm attending practically every meeting of practically every one of my clubs and using the opportunity to remind people that any leads for a club are welcome and that we're looking for them. So that gives me a team of 70 people under me as an area. Hopefully, that's why I say I'm trying to commit to 5 clubs. Maybe they won't all be by January 1, at least one will be, but use the resources you've got.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate that.
And one real quick comment for myself too. When I was doing this last year with John, I think it's one of the funnest things I've done for the district. Coming up with the lead is one thing, but once you're doing the demo meetings, closing everybody, getting it done as fast as you can, it's challenging, but it's fun. It really is fun.
We had, what, 6 brand new clubs in the district before COVID?
We did 7 by December, following Alfred's format.
7?
Yeah, we got about 7 by December already.
Yeah. Yeah.
I personally have sponsored and founded 3 clubs, all of which invite me back almost annually and honor me as the club founder. It's really rewarding. It's one of the most rewarding things in Toastmasters.
Yep.
Yeah, I have to agree. It's super rewarding. You take members from ground zero and it's like a little baby club and you're kind of, helping them to grow. And then when you see them growing and you see them succeeding, it's super satisfying. So yeah, it's a great experience.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, I love the downtown area where you are. If you walk downtown, you look at all those names on the tops of all those buildings and go, oh, we don't have a club there. Oh, we don't have a club there. Oh, we don't have a club there either. And yet those buildings stand and they're filled with people. I want to say this. You never, ever know who wants to join. You don't know. And when you just ask and share the benefits, they go, oh my gosh, I would really love to do that. You have that power of sharing with them that is just amazing. You never, don't hesitate to share. Don't ever hesitate to share. And also, Alfred said, you know, no name badges, but look at, he's wearing his pin. And I bet he wears his pin outside of Toastmasters. I know I wear my Toastmasters t-shirt when I'm out and about, because it's more important to show the Toastmasters logo outside of my meeting than it is inside the meeting. You know, inside the meeting, everybody knows. Outside, they go, I've heard of that, but can you tell me more about it? You're opening doors all the time.
I think Toastmasters t-shirt is a good idea. I mean, I'm going to do that.
Yeah, they have some really cool ones to wear. Plus, for those of you that don't wear t-shirts, they make a polo shirt. I know William Tappan is big on the polo shirt, right, William? Yes?
Yes, and I have not been able to order any recently.
You know, I wish the shop would get that fixed.
Yes.
I would put on my Toastmasters baseball cap right now, but it's in my car, so that I'll remember to wear it into Ralph's and any place else I go.
Yeah. Did you? I didn't.
Alfred has to leave.
Bye, everybody. It was an honor to present to you. I hope it made sense. We spent a lot of time on the why, so hopefully you get that. If you don't get the why it's important, why it's the #1 focus, then the rest of it didn't matter. But that's why we spent that time. Hopefully